Thank you for downloading this episode of the Nerdball Podcast. This podcast is brought to you by Fort Meigs CrossFit. Fort Meigs CrossFit has been a great partner with me getting this podcast to new levels. I am not there this week because of football two-a-days, just not enough time to edit an in-person interview, but they're always willing to help me out, always willing to let me use their space to record a podcast. It looks a lot more professional when I'm there, I suppose, in my basement with all my junk behind me. So they have Fort Meigs CrossFit has classes for all age groups, all skill levels. They have classes 7 days a week. Check out all the stuff if you have any questions, check out their website at fortmeigscrossfit.com. This podcast is also brought to you by Three Different Dads. We have not done a Three Different Dads in a few weeks. I don't even know if we'll do one this week. It's been a couple challenging weeks for Jim, so we've kind of just put that off for now, but we'll be back at some point to discuss all dad things, so stay tuned for that. My guest today was someone I coached with for a few years. Great guy. Learned a lot from him. It was great talking to him, not only on the podcast but also on the field when we were out there coaching together. So I don't want to belabor this intro anymore. I look forward to what you all have to say about this episode. Please like, share, leave comments, subscribe to wherever you listen to this podcast. I got a few more YouTube subscribers. A few more have migrated over to Podbean. So I'm excited. This podcast is growing. So I'm just going to keep doing it. It's fun. And if you have any guests that you would like to come on, just reach out, the nerdballpodcast@gmail.com, or reach on any social media. The Nerdball Pod on Twitter, Instagram is the Nerdball Podcast, and Facebook page, the Nerdball Podcast. Please reach out. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks.
This is Dave Russell, and this is the Nerdball Podcast.
This is the Nerdball Podcast with Lorenzo Melcher.
Perfect. All right, Dave, thanks for hopping on the podcast today. I appreciate you coming on here, man.
Hey, thanks for having me.
You are in the string of last minute invitees because I have so much stuff going on. I'm like, oh man, I gotta get people on the podcast this week.
I'm right with you, man. I'm glad I can make it because my schedule's been really crazy lately.
Yeah. Well, the first thing I always ask people is, what is something you nerd out about? Something you're super into, something, a hobby, something that gets you away from your job. So something that you can relax with, something that either something you've done for a long time, something you just started. It can be anything, but something that just gets you, that you really like doing.
Most of my time right now is revolving around my children. So it's kind of like, anytime I'm away from the job, it's usually what they've got going on in their lives. And, that keeps me busy. Yeah. But I'm a huge sports fan, so I hate to admit I love the Tigers. Not a very good time right now. The Mud Hens, obviously, they're enjoyable. I follow them quite a bit, and obviously the Tigers too. But it's kind of been one of those. But
do you have? Well, I know you have older boys or older children, and then younger children. Do you coach? Because I know, obviously, I met you through football coaching, and I know you coach baseball now. Do you coach them in any of their stuff?
I did the older ones. The younger ones, no. Alex right now, he's our 9-year-old.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, turned 10. Sorry.
Oh, wow.
And he's into flag football now, and this is the first child that I've had that I've actually went and watched him play in the stands.
Yeah.
And
how hard is that?
I don't, at first, I think like the first half of the season, I think it was extremely difficult. And then as the season went on and I saw the staff they did a great job with the boys. And so it was kind of like, I enjoyed the last half of the season. They had a really successful season. They won their postseason tournament. And,
nice.
To see that success and to watch him, because he's a little different than his older brothers, and they were like sports nuts from the second they could pick up a newspaper, which that's not around anymore, but or or it was like they would get up in the morning and put Sports Center on,
Yeah.
and it was watching Sports Center and doing that and he never really kind of did that, and he kind of got into other things. He's kind of more of a hands-on kid, but now he's starting to get to sports. Now he's doing MLB The Show.
Yeah.
He's watching Sports Center now. He's getting into it, and so he kind of just developed maybe a little bit later, and then he decided, hey, Dad, just came to me, and he's always played baseball, and then said, I want to take baseball off this spring, and I want to play FNA football,
Yeah.
flag football. Our neighbor boy is into it and got him into it, so he absolutely loved it. And so now the fall season's starting here next week, and so he's getting ready for that now, and I'm going to watch him again and see how that goes. And it's a different thing, but I'm enjoying it. So
Yeah, I remember him out there when you were coaching. Alex
yeah,
was out there. Him and Drew were buddies.
sure. Oh yeah.
But
Yeah.
I remember him being out there.
Yeah.
But it is a different thing because I remember I coached Mateo when he started playing flag football, but then I stopped just because I couldn't do it during football season.
Exactly.
But it is a weird thing when you're used to just coaching things and then you're just sitting there. It's another skill that I had to work on and not like
Right.
I'm pretty good because I don't like when parents are like second guessing me or I'm sure they are when I do certain things. So I'm pretty good at
Yeah.
not doing that. But I will lean over to Andrew and be like, they probably should be doing this or they should be doing that. And she just looks at me and shakes her head.
Oh, yeah. Brandy's the same way. Yeah. She's like, oh my God, you're not coaching anymore. Just, you know,
Yeah. All right.
Let him do his thing. I said, oh, I am. Man, I wish he would do this, and especially on the defensive side of the ball. I'm a big. Did I lose you?
Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
There.
Yeah, something's cutting out.
Okay.
Let me check something here. I
Is it
plugged
me?
in. I don't know. I plugged in my. I mean, usually I got to plug in my computer, but everything's plugged in, so I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out as we go, I guess.
Okay. It might be me. I'm in my basement. Sometimes it gets a little cranky down here, but
okay.
Usually I'm okay though.
Yeah. But yeah, so you were saying, that Brandy says the same thing to you when you start to coach.
Yeah. She just like let coach do the coaching.
Yeah.
You do the watching. And I said, yep, that's what I'm doing. Sometimes I talk out loud and that's what's going on in my head. But
when he's playing, do you ever watch him play video games? Or I'm sure he asked you because I know Mateo plays MLB The Show and he's playing NBA 2K right now, but he always asks like, "Hey, hey, come watch this or check this out or whatever."
Oh, for sure, all the time. Yeah. Come check this out, Dad. He does that. He does he's got an old the NFL. What's the NFL part of that? I never got into that. My boys always played
like Madden.
Yeah, Madden. He's got I don't know what year he's got. He's got like an old version of it or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny watching him play that and get the old players. He has no idea who they are, but he plays it and hey, Dad, look at this. This guy's a 99, which I kind of know what that means, but I don't really. I never really got into those games for some reason. I just too busy doing the real thing, I guess, coaching, and didn't really have time to do that. But yeah, so it's cool that I never pushed any of my kids super hard into sports. I've always just kind of exposed them to it, and then they just grabbed onto whatever they were interested in. And I just did the same thing with Alex, and my girls are the same way. And they're just they go their own way. Like I said, he's actually starting to really get into the sports now, and it's kind of been. I'm kind of glad it's going that way because he needs that, and I think it's great for kids, and it's great discipline, and it teaches them other things about life, and that's something I've learned over the years.
Yeah. Well, if being involved and we'll get into it, but being involved with sports and coaching for so long that you see all that stuff and you recognize, we always talk about players that, they need a sport more than the sport needs them, that kind of stuff. So there's just a lot of that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I just know you from coaching Perrysburg, but you've been coaching for a while. Did you grow up around here?
Yeah, I went to Northwood. I graduated from there in 1986. Yikes! I know I'm dating myself.
That's all right. That's just the year after I was born, but that's good.
That's awesome. Awesome. And I always I had a lot of younger friends, and so I still went back and watched them play in their sport. So I kind of was always around it. And then I kind of got away a little bit with my job, and it kind of took me up into Michigan a little bit. So I kind of lost track. And then we started, and then my first child was born, and so then we kind of moved back into Northwood. And so they got back into the sport, or back into the school system there. And so I kind of got immersed back into it again. And then when I started coaching my oldest in T-ball, then I went to Coach James, who's the head football coach at North. Has been there. He took over the year after I graduated. He started in '87 there. And actually just started talking to him, just having conversations with him, and about the baseball program there at Northwood, and then the football program. And I actually was interested in coaching in the baseball program. And he's like, well, we've got a coach there. He's all set. He goes, but I have a spot open. And I said, well, what is it? He goes, well, it'd be a junior high football coach. And I'm like, yeah. He goes, we got a young kid that's coaching it. He's a great head coach, but you're a little bit older. Maybe he could use a little bit of that. And I said, yeah, sure, I'll do that. And you'll never guess who that guy was.
Oh, who was that?
Chuck Jaco.
Oh, really?
Yeah, my first year of junior high coaching was me and Chuck. Me and Chuck coached the junior high team together.
No kidding. Chuck,
Yep.
for people who don't know, is the Perrysburg athletic director now.
Absolutely,
that's funny.
One of the greatest humans on earth, man. I love that guy. Me and him coached 2 years of junior high football together. We were in the old SLL. We were the teeny little Northwood school, and the big SLL. The SLL was a big, like the Eastwood, Elmo. I mean, they were bigger, a lot bigger schools back then than we were.
Yeah.
And so I got in that, and Chuck's like, this SLL is a meat grinder, man. It's going to be tough. We're going to have to really, so blah blah. Well, we ended up winning it.
Nice.
Yeah, it was. We had a really good class that year. And so we came back and had the 7th grade class came in right after them, was even better. We won it again. So we were back SLO champions, and Chuck and I will hang our hats on that all day. I just ask him about it. He'll beam right up, because that was one of probably the top athletic class to ever go through Northwood.
Yeah.
And I just got lucky and hit it right.
Yeah.
So I did that 2 years, and then
you have to remember those things. Like I remember when I was a freshman football coach and we won NLL. Like it's like a cool thing, it's you're part of this championship, it's something you will remember, even if your friends make fun of you.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they do. Yeah. I mean, I have a t-shirt that I still have. I mean, I was way smaller back then, so it doesn't fit me anymore. But
I was going to ask you if you had a t-shirt.
Yeah, I still have the 2 t-shirts. They're in a box somewhere in my basement. I got the football that the team signed. I've got all that stuff still. I keep all that, but I got memorabilia down in my in this basement down here. That's just like, wow. But yeah, so yeah, that was Chuck and I, man. We had a crew there that was a great time. And
how many coaches? Was it just you two?
No, we had there was 3 of us. Yep,
okay,
there were 3 of us. Yep. Yeah. And we did that. Like I said, I did that for 2 years, and Chuck was teaching at Northwood at that time.
Okay.
And then after that, Coach James had a spot open up, had a coach retire. And they asked me if I'd be interested in going up and coaching varsity linebackers. And yeah, I said, for sure. Yeah. So I went up and did that. And then Chuck kind of moved on. I think he went to Penna for a little bit.
Okay.
And then he jumped into Perrysburg and became the athletic director. So
yeah.
But yeah, it's that's how it all started. And I learned a lot from Chuck. I don't know if Chuck learned anything from me. He probably didn't, because Chuck's a good dude, man. He knows his stuff, and he was a really good coach. And I think he could have did really well if he would have coached. But he obviously he's doing great with what he's doing. And then so yeah, I haven't had a chance to really tell that part. So people, I just say, yeah, I grew up with Chuck. I've known Chuck for a long time. But,
I knew that part of it, but I didn't know you guys coached together. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. It was on my very first year. I was 1998.
Okay. All right.
So yeah.
So that year, because I know you were at Northwood for a while. That year starting there was your start of what, 20 some years at Northwood?
Yeah. Yeah, well, yeah, nah, not quite that. I think I started in 98 to 2013, so it was 15 years.
Okay.
But I've been coaching since, it's been about 25 years now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I asked. We started our tour days yesterday, and I asked Sims. I
Oh
go,
boy.
Sims, what number season is this for you? He goes, 35.
Yeah. That's crazy, isn't it?
It is. Yeah.
It's flown by. I just, when you had asked me to do it, then that makes you sit down and then start pondering over your life again. What's he going to ask me? I got to be able to come up with dates or whatever. And I'm like, I'm terrible with dates.
No,
I'm
no.
terrible with names, but I can tell you the names of a lot of those kids back then, and then I still run into them now, and it's great running into those kids and they, hey, Coach Russell, how you doing? And it's like, man, I know you. You're, how do you spell your name again? No, it's like, it's one of them things, but it's and then coaching kids that I graduated with, their kids, I've done that at Northwood too, and doing that, that's great to do that too as well. But
so you were at Northwood. When do you have? Because you said you started when you were 19. When do you have your first kid? Like when in this?
My oldest boy was born in 1992.
Okay. All right. So because I know that's, for me, that's difficult as far as like when you have a kid, you're like, all right, I wasn't coaching. I don't think I was coaching yet when we had Mateo. But was that a hard thing to figure out? Like, all right, I have this kid, and now I'm coaching too, and like how to figure all that out.
Yeah, it was tough. It was tough. I mean, you had to prioritize, but the thing I was still involved. I coached both my older boys in baseball still.
Okay.
That was in the offseason. Well, then we had something called the Little Ranger program that Coach James had started at Northwood, and it was a 4th and a 5th grade team.
Okay.
And it was kind of its own little entity. He would put the coaches in it, and he was real strict. This is what I'll give this man credit is. He pushed his program all the way down as far. So it's like if you were coaching in his program, the junior high level, or even down in the Little Ranger program, you had to run his stuff or a rudiment of it. Some sort of kind of, you had to run triple. He's a triple option coach. So you had to run triple option no matter what. Well, as my boys started getting up in age, I went to him and said, hey, how about expanding the Little Ranger program and maybe pushing it down a little bit lower? And so he's like, hey, if you're up for it, go for it. And so I said, cool, I'm good. So we basically revamped the entire Little Ranger program. We made it 3rd and 4th grade was the 3rd and 4th grade team. And then we had a 5th and 6th grade team. And tons of kids. It grew exponentially, and it actually started involving 2nd graders too.
Oh, really? Wow.
This is tackle football all the way down to 2nd grade. So you had your choice. You could come up and play as a 2nd grader, but you weren't guaranteed playing time. You would get 5th quarter time if you wanted it, but the 3rd and 4th graders had priority.
Yeah.
And so that kind of all developed. So it was, I'm doing varsity football. And then we'd always have practices in the evening. So right after that was when Little Ranger would kick in. So all the other coaches would be like, hey, I'm going home. Yeah, we'll see you later. I'm like, yeah, I'm here for another 2 or 3 hours because we got to, I ran it and coached it. So it was a lot of long days.
So the drive for this was just for your boy to play football, right?
I wanted my boys to be involved. They wanted to play. They were like, Dad, I want to play football. I want to play football. So I said, well, you can't play till, 5th grade. And, my oldest boy was in 2nd grade, 3rd grade, always on the football field with us, when we were practicing varsity stuff, and they want to play. And so I said, that's when I went to a coach and I said, hey, he's like, oh yeah, let's do it. I've always wanted to do it. If you want to run it, do it, so I took it over and we developed that thing's still going like gangbusters right now. It's a great organization and it's well run. And it's just, I passed the baton off as my kids came up through it. And a couple of guys took it over and they did real good. And it's just been snowballing and it's been great. So I kind of check in every once in a while, see how it's going over there. And people are saying it's amazing. They're doing a great job. And so, I kind of hang my hat on that one. But both my boys I had one in 3rd grade and he started the very first 3rd grade class there. And then he moved up into 4th. And then my 2nd grader played too. And he played on the 3rd and 4th grade team. And they had about a group of his friends played. And then now their class is probably, if not the best class, the 2nd best class to come through Northwood because they had 25 kids in their class at Northwood that played football.
Wow.
And
That's big there, right?
that's 3 times as big as a normal class that comes
Yeah.
through. I mean, you get like maybe 8, 10 kids that get, they're bigger now, but back when we were so small, to have a 25 player team come into that program is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And the craziest thing about it, and I always tell everybody this, is we videotape like all of their games, that class, because that's my youngest boy's class, or not my youngest boy now, but back then it was my boy's class. And there's 25 that played in 3rd grade. When they were seniors, I coached them in football, obviously. When they were seniors, they all came over to my house and we broke out the Little Ranger tapes, right? And there's 23 of them graduated that played in 3rd grade.
Yeah.
2 of them just kind of happened to migrate away, but none of them quit football. It was like that class was just a really weird class. They all were best friends. They all hung out, and it wasn't like enemies. All 23 of them.
Yeah.
And the really funny thing is you looked at it, and most of the kids that were playing as 3rd graders were playing the same position as seniors.
Oh, wow. Yeah. And that changes quite a bit because they grow and, everyone gets bigger. Yeah.
Yeah. Some of the kids that were too heavy to run the ball ran the ball, but they still, on defense, they played linebacker or on free safeties, or, it's like, it was just, we was all sitting there looking at like, yeah, look at Nick, he was a free safety, and, and now he's, he was a free safety when he graduated. That's my boy and the quarterback. And, it was just very odd, but they all love that. And they still all hang out together. They're all real good. So that's, kind of the camaraderie that I push for sports, that you keep that through life. And it's one of those life lessons. I love coaching. That's why I love coaching.
I was just talking to our new offensive line coach yesterday because my daughter, I'm coaching my daughter's travel softball team next year, and I coached it this year, 8U. And for me, like, we only had one 8U team, but for me, it was like, hey, you gotta learn how to play. You gotta do all these fundamentals. You're 8 and 9 years old. Like, there's still some girls can't throw it very well. So like, you're learning all this stuff. And then this next year, I'm coaching the silver team. And I was telling our new offensive line coach, I was like, his daughter's on our team too. I was like, I'd much rather be a silver team or a bronze team or a B team coach, because I'd much rather develop these girls, and everyone knows like this is about developing and getting them ready for their future if they want to keep playing softball, than be on the gold team. It's like win. Well, this girl is batter number 11 and she hardly plays, but that's just what we got to do. Like, it's more difficult, but
sure.
to your point of starting this league, just developing these kids and getting them ready and being part of it, that's my favorite part of coaching anything.
And I'll be honest with you, I enjoyed the Little Ranger experience. I know it was difficult from the time aspect, but I enjoyed that way more than I enjoyed coaching varsity football, just because kids at that age are just, like I say, they're developing. And I mean, you could tell them, you need to hop on one foot and throw the football, they would do it. It's like they just like sponges, and it was like, yeah, this is how we're going to do it, and just teaching the very fundamentals of football. I get more gratification out of that than I do on a Friday night type thing.
Yeah.
But I still love the Friday night stuff, and and all that, and the baseball part of it. I would rather do clinics and teach the very fundamentals of hitting or fielding and all that, and then the actual coach. I do get more joy out of that too as well. So.
Yeah, you can, especially when they're younger, you can see the change a lot more too, like from the beginning of the season to the end of the season, as opposed to football. It's very small incremental changes. It's like, oh, you finally didn't false step, like good job, but it's all these small little things, because that's all you're working on at that level, because if you're working on the fundamentals, then you're not playing, so you can't work on that kind of stuff.
Right.
How was it? Because Mateo's gonna be in 6th grade, so he still has a few years before he plays football in high school, if he just chooses that. How was it coaching or being on the staff when your sons were playing?
It was hard because I don't think it was hard. I was tough. Obviously, you're tougher. Usually, you're tougher on your kid than you are other players. I tried my darndest not to be that way, because I've seen other coaches that do that. And my biggest thing was, if I'm gonna harp on you and chew you out for XYZ, then I'm gonna talk you up for the other when you do well. I always try to do that. If I'm going to down you for one thing, then I'm going to say something good that you did somewhere else. And that was the philosophy of my dad was always like that. And that's something that passed on to me. But I never coached either one of my kids' position. So I was always opposite. I was at Northwood. I was a defensive coordinator and linebackers coach. And so Eric, my oldest boy, was a quarterback only. So, and Coach James was the quarterback coach, and he was, because that was his thing. I mean, that was the triple option was his, and he had to run it, and he did it. He showed me the fundamentals of it, but he was a huge proponent of that. And I mean, he has college coaches, talking to him about what he got to do with running triple option type stuff. He's been around for so freaking long. So I was always on the defensive side of the ball. So I never really coached Eric very much. And then Nick, and that was the other thing too, is Coach James was a proponent for if your quarterback plays, he doesn't play defense because he can't have his quarterback going down.
Yeah.
But now Nick, my second oldest, was an absolute. He was a little bit different than his brother. He was a lot more physical, a little bit smaller, a lot faster, but he would absolutely murder you on a football field if he could. And he had that mentality where he would chew on Coach James every I want to play defense. I want to play defense. I want to play defense. And Coach finally said, all right. So he came up as a freshman, and so Eric was a junior. And that was the nice thing about Northwood too, is he developed his quarterbacks in every 2 year increments. So you had a quarterback that would be under the wing of the guy that was a junior or senior. You were the freshman, sophomore. You were the backup. So you would get the mop-up games, but then so it was like every 2 years you had a new triple option quarterback coming in. He would just hit the ground running. There was never any like rebuild, I guess. It was just a retool. He just would come in and take right over. So Eric was, for his junior senior year, was the starting quarterback, and Nick was, as a freshman and a sophomore, started free safety for us.
Oh wow.
And he was the backup quarterback. Well, then we got to, well, it's your time to take over the offense. So Coach James like, well, you're done on defense. And I was like, whoa. He's like, he's my best freaking defender. Are you kidding me right now?
Yeah.
And he's like, well, he's done on defense. So I'm like, crap. So I think that went for maybe 3 games, maybe. And the next thing I know, Coach James like, hey, put Nick in it free. And so I'm like, whoa, all right, so it was like, one of those things, like he gave me a really good, I mean, he's my son, and I don't like talking about but I'm telling you, he was one of our best hitters, defenders, just was a field general back there. Always had, he kind of reminded me of Drew Sim. I mean, he was that general guy who just put guys in right positions, coach on the field, knew the defense inside and out, knew the offense inside and out, it was just like, you had to have him out there. And so, yeah, he got lucky and got to play defense his senior year. But, we had to get him out when we didn't absolutely have to have him. It was, but we still had him a little bit better.
There's still some rules around it.
For sure. Oh, yeah. If it got, if the game got a little bit out of hand, it was like, get him out because we don't want him getting rolled up on or anything like that. But, if it was a tough game or whatever, he's like, get him back there because he would make sure that we were in the right defense. And so, yeah.
Yeah.
But he had a really good class around him, so it was easy.
Oh yeah, it makes it easier when you're like, okay, well, we don't, we're gonna lose something obviously because he's not a starter, but it's not as big drop off.
Right. Yeah. It was just he was just that safety net back there to be, to make sure we were in the right coverage and we had the right line. I mean, I had a great middle linebacker too, and in that class, so he was, he took care of the front and Nick took care of the back, and it was just like, they're all good to go, man. So I never had to worry about being lined up wrong. Never had to worry about being matched up right or wrong. Yeah. It was just like, it was easy. So that's why I kind of liked having him back there. So it was more for that but he was still physical. He was one of the most physical kids we had out there.
I like watching, like the one that stands out to me is, well, he can't help but stand out is Canyon Gagich when he was out, when he was playing safety, just like hearing him control everything and move people around and make sure people are in the right spot. It's cool to see that kind of stuff, and I never really paid attention to it as much as when he did it.
Yeah, just to have that extra set of eyes out there. I mean, because we're looking up top and we're looking from the side and we got a pretty good grip on it, but still just to be down there in it and seeing it, and it's great to have that communicator. And Canyon reminded me of my second oldest too. Same way, but
So you you coached them. They move on. When they leave, does it feel like weird because they're you have it was 6 years of your sons being there?
Yeah.
Does it feel different? Like, oh man, it's like, why
Yeah,
am
it
I?
was, when I first started at varsity, they weren't there. So it was kind of like, I coached, and then they came through the program, and it was just kind of like, yeah, I think it was more weird having them there than not having them there for me,
Yeah,
just because I was so used to coaching, and it was like, I was already there for a while, and it was like,
yeah,
oh, now your kids are in here. So, and like I said, I never really coached them, so they were always in a different room, or they're always on the different half of the field or whatever. So, but on Friday nights, obviously you get to watch them right there. And then once they were gone, then it was just kind of like, yeah, there was a little bit of a void there. And that was one of the reasons why I kind of left there was, Eric went on to play football at Manchester University. Their triple option team over in Indiana.
okay.
He unfortunately had an injury, a catastrophic injury that
Oh, really?
stopped his career. Yeah, I tell him he's got the NCAA rushing record for quarterbacks, yards per carry, because he had one carry in his career and carried it 38 yards and then shredded his knee. Every CL that you have in his knee was gone.
Really?
Yeah, in fact, I think the only thing that was basically holding his bottom leg on was the skin. I mean, it was the most. I I beat the trainer. I was up in the stands. At Trine University, it was their very first scrimmage, and he was at quarterback, and he was running. They ran triple there, but then they also ran quarterback option and stuff,
Okay.
and so he faked to the halfback, and he was really good tactician. The whole defense went with the halfback, and so he kept it and rushed around the left hand side. Nobody saw him. He's running all by himself, but the free safety saw him, so he took an angle. So he's at the angle coming down. They're coming down the sideline right in front of us, and he cut back into the inside. He went right. His left knee went left.
So it wasn't even a
And
contact injury.
no, nope,
Oh,
non-contact, just boom. And I saw the whole bottom half separate, and I beat the trainer to him. Let's put it that way. I knew it was. I knew. I mean, I
yeah.
knew. I saw as soon as I saw it. I'm like, ah. And so I shot down out of the stands, and I was down there, and the trainer come up, and I'm like, and he's laying there, and it was just like, yeah, this is a catastrophic one. And I give him credit because he tried to come back.
Oh, after that.
Yeah, he tried, but I mean, actually, well, the doctor, he's like, "Can I play football anymore?" When we were getting evaluated, and he's like, "Son, I'm hoping to make you be able to walk again." And yeah, so it was pretty catastrophic. And he,
Yeah.
he worked he worked his rear end off, rehabbed in, and then finally just decided, you know what, I'm just giving it up. But the nice thing about Coach over at Manchester is he allowed him to keep all of his grants, kept him on the team. He became a quarterback's student coach.
Okay.
So by the time his junior year, senior year, he was actually up in the box helping call plays, and he was doing recruiting, and he was a sports management major. He graduated sports management from over there. He coached local high schools over there. He was a JV baseball coach for their
Oh,
local
wow.
high school over there. Yeah, so he would do that in the spring while he was still going to school. So, and then he graduated and got a job working for a logistics company. Um, and is doing real well with that. He's raising a family over in Fort Wayne, Indiana. He's got twin little girls right now. He's married, so he's doing real well. Um, Still kicks around coach, get back into coaching. I'm sure he will once he's got the bug.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Nick graduated 2 years later. He went on to Tiffin to play baseball there, and he had a catastrophic injury that ended his career over
Damn,
there.
Dave.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. He tore his labrum to where he couldn't even pick his arm up or throw or do anything anymore. So he got out of that, and I was hoping to watch two boys go through and play college football and baseball. I had myself all set up for that, and that didn't happen. So
Yeah. Hey, but
that's
it sounds like things were working out though.
for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
like Nick now he's raising a family. He lives in Moline, and he's a sales manager for Yark Automotive. He's doing
Okay.
real well. Yeah, he's got a little boy. He's 2, and he's got a little daughter that's going to be 1 here pretty soon. And
Nice.
yeah, they're doing real well. So,
Um,
but like sports I think sports is what did that. Got them.
Hmm.
The toughness of that, and they both rebounded from something that was really bad, and they made lemonade with lemons and are doing really well.
Nice.
Yep.
That reminds me, you were talking about jobs and stuff with them, but you are not in education, so you're similar to me in the fact that I'm coaching, not in education. Was that ever like a hindrance, or was it ever something that you had to like constantly think about, or
Yeah, yeah, it was difficult. I work a chemical sales engineer, and so I'm self-employed, and I work for a company called Watcon out of Indiana, and so pretty much can make up my own schedule.
uh-huh.
But there were periods of times, like everything, when the economy goes bad or things start to slow down. You think, oh man, I'm probably going to have to give up the coaching because
Hmm.
it takes up a lot of time, and I'm giving up a lot of work stuff to be able to for 2 days. And there's probably maybe 1 or maybe 2 years in there where the 2 day schedule, I could only make the one and had to leave, or make the second one, or had to go work and then make the second. It was like, where when the economy had turned down and I needed to get out and
Yeah.
work a little bit more.
Yep.
And but most of that, it was great having, Coach James was always great with working with me on that. But yeah, I was fortunate enough to have that job to be able to kind of meander things around, move things around, to be able to coach. And not that many people get that opportunity, so I
Yeah.
took advantage of it, and that's one of the things that I'm happy that I had that opportunity to do that.
That's where I've been too. Like lucky for me, I've had bosses and supervisors where they work with me on my schedule. There was a couple, I think my first couple years, excuse me, on the varsity at Perrysburg, I had to, because Kriegel did 2 days in the morning, so I did 2 days in the morning, and then I'd go to work from like 1 to 9 or something at night. So they let me, move things around, or I would use vacation time, but it is a difficult thing to do, because we obviously love to do it. So if we got to work a lot, like this coming week, starting tomorrow,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to work and then go to 2 days until 9 p.m. So like it's just something we have to do. And like I said, lucky for me, everyone's pretty understanding that they know I love to do this and they're willing
For sure.
to help. And actually,
Yeah.
one of the reasons I became a supervisor at the Metro Parks was my boss said that he liked the fact that I coach. Like that's part of what he liked about me supervising people, or him wanting me to supervise people, is because of
Yeah.
that coaching aspect.
Yeah. That's great. That's that. Yeah. That you like people like that, because the people that do realize, say, you tell them, hey, yeah, I coach high school football, and people go, hey, whatever. Then you got people go, whoa, how do you have all, how do you do that?
Yeah.
That's a huge time. That's a huge time thing, I'm like, it is, but it's rewarding, and you got to love it. And that's why I like, the people that respect that part of, I guess, about it, the time constraint, and you're
Hmm.
giving back. And that's the whole reason why I always did. And that's what I told Coach James when I first went to him. I said, he was like, why the heck do you want to do that? I said, I want to give back to the program that I got out. I got
Yeah.
so much out of this program, and I see so much of the life lessons that I learned in sports in high school and earlier come back in your later life, and you go, oh, okay, that makes sense now. And they always harp, your coaches always harp that, this is life lessons you're learning here. Now, this is, we're trying to make you into, good human beings and husbands and fathers. And you look, you always listen to it and like, hey, okay, whatever. You were a teenager at the time, and you're like, oh,
Yep.
whatever. But then you're like, yeah, he was, yeah, he was talking. Yeah, he was right.
Yeah. Well,
And so
I still remember when Coach Roger Frank was the coach at Perrysburg when I was there, the head
right.
coach. And the one thing it still stays with me, and I think I've told him and his wife, a couple times since I've seen him, like he told us, either my junior year or senior year, he told us, we won't know, as a coaching staff, we won't know how successful we are until much much later from now, when if you guys are good husbands and you're good men at your jobs and you're good family
Right.
guys, and like we won't know if how well we did,
Right.
it could be 10, 15, 20 years from now. But I
Right.
always think about that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, no, that's for sure. And coaching at my alma mater, which is something, obviously you're doing the same thing, and you're
Hmm.
giving back to that program. I mean, it's morphed since you've been there, obviously, but still, the same things are there. And so that's kind of like what, biggest thing I wanted to do. I seen some of my friends that, were kind of troublemakers and into trouble, and we hooked them into sports, and they straightened up and they became great and I still see them to this day. And I said, that's the kind of stuff that I want to instill in the kids, and that's kind of what I did when I was started at Northwood. That was my biggest thing, was to impact them that way. Not only coach them, but just kind of talk to them about being good human beings. And some of the kids that I coached over there, it's a little bit different makeup than Perrysburg, I guess you could say. Being politically correct, I guess. So it was a little different clientele that we coached over there. So there was a lot more, I guess, outside the program. We were a little more involved with the kids outside the program at Northwood than we were at Perrysburg, than I was at Perrysburg. And, with study tables and making sure, I was in the guidance office, if not every day, every other day, to make sure, we had a list of kids that we had to keep track of, make sure they're up on their studies, make sure they're up on their, their home life wasn't the best, and, constantly keeping track to make sure they had everything they needed. And so it was kind of more hands-on there. And I got a lot of satisfaction on that, because there were some kids that were on a fast track to nowhere that we hooked them into coming and playing football or baseball. And some of them I don't want to name names, but there was one kid that was in the prison system when we got him, and we hooked him in as a sophomore, and that kid now is working for Owens Corning, and is an engineer for them now. And I just saw him. This is the reason I bring up. I saw him. It was about a month ago. Ran into him at a restaurant, and he gives you that hug, and it's that little bit tighter hug that you get from a player, because that he's like, hey man, I really appreciate. And that right there is all I needed, to be able to say, my life coaching is, that reward right there was the biggest reward you could ever get.
Yeah.
When that kid was on a path to nowhere, and football gave him something to grab onto. And we as a coaching staff guided him through his high school career and got him into college. And, that's the stuff we love.
Yeah. That's not every coach can do that kind of stuff, which is fine. Your job to coach is to coach football or baseball or whatever sport. It's that the extra stuff. Not every coach is capable of doing that, but as long as you can coach those guys on the field, you'll be fine. But I like that extra stuff too. I used to, when I had Mondays off, I used to go into the junior high and talk to kids, or I would go into HPI in the 5th and 6th grade building and talk to kids. And I like that stuff too.
Yeah, no, I say I'm probably never told you. You remind me a lot of me when I was younger. Your pathway, and I'll tell you right. I admire you to death, because I say,
well, thank you.
It takes a special person to do that, and I don't call myself special, but that's what I wanted to do too. And I was in the elementaries doing the recruiting for football. I would go down their lunch hours. I would take my lunch hour at work, and I'd shoot over to we had 2 elementaries in Northwood, one on one side and one on the other, and I would go just sit and lunch, and I'd wear my my Northwood football jersey or shirt, and go in, and all the boys and girls would come up to and be like, hey, that's a football coach. Oh, look at, and I just tell them, hey, we got this program if you guys want to get into it, and it's real fun, and we made it fun, and we grew the numbers to where it was like, man, we had, when I left and passed it on, we had 2 3rd and 4th grade teams, 2 5th and 6th grade teams at there, and so I take pride in that. But again, it was like you getting down in the junior high and talking to the kids, not only recruiting them, but just talking to them and just saying, hey, how's it going? You're playing football. Do you know anybody that's, we can get into the program, that, and just stuff like that. So I was constantly doing that. And so that's the rewarding part of it, to see the successes that come out of that.
But that's, and that's my plan this year too. I'm still working through it, but I plan to have like a recruitment day for 8th graders, so they can come on game day, and I can show them around. I'm even gonna have like our white jerseys are out. They can put their jerseys on and take pictures and all that kind of stuff, and cart them out on the field pregame. And I like all that stuff. Because the more maybe all those kids are going to play next year anyway, or maybe it makes 3 play that weren't going to play. I don't know, but it's only going to help as far as I'm concerned. But all that.
We did the same thing at Northwood when I was over there too with the 8th graders. It was always the stretch game. Stretch game was that was our big. That was week 10 every year. It was a big rivalry.
Yep.
because a lot of the Stritch was the Catholic school that was butted right up to Northwood, and they were the ones that grabbed some of our kids everywhere. So it was one of those things, like Perrysburg St. John's type, kid from
Yeah.
Perrysburg was St. John. It was that was our St. John's type thing, So it was a friendly rivalry, but it was pretty heated. But that was always week 10. The junior high 8th graders we would come over and we get them in their jerseys, and they get to see the weight room and the locker room. But they were in the weight room anyway. But they got to see the locker room. They got to see where their lockers were going to be, because we had a section that was just for incoming freshmen.
Okay.
So they could actually pick out their locker and do all that, and then they got to go out on the field and stand on the sidelines, and they got to see Coach James's pregame speech and halftime, hopefully happy speech, or see the evil side of football when stuff isn't going your way. So
yeah, see, I'm gonna cut my guys loose after the first quarter.
Yeah, no, we would let them come in at halftime to see how adjustments were made.
Sure.
How each coach had their adjustment period, and so they got to see all of that. So nothing was a shock when they came over. They knew what was coming, and they knew, like, the pregame stuff. They knew all that, because it was always funny, because I'd always just when Coach James was doing his pregame, I'd always look at the 8th graders, because they always kind of sat over in the corner, and you just look at him, like, get the big wide eyes going, oh my God, those guys, because he was a rah-rah guy, and kind of like Coach Kriegel.
Yeah.
But he mellowed out as he got a little bit older too, and it wasn't as, I don't want to say bad, but it wasn't as crazy as he was. But so yeah, that was always fun. I always got to look at their expressions on their face over there, and like, oh, whoa, this is crazy. This is crazy, So, but yeah,
there's nothing like a good pregame speech. Sometimes it takes 5 words. Sometimes you take a minute and a half. But I love pregame speeches
for sure. And to tell you a little bit about that's the first time I saw Coach Kriegel. It was probably what year did you guys go really far in the playoffs? Was that 15, 14?
15, I believe.
15.
Yeah.
We were, as a staff at Northwood, a lot of times we would just hang out and start prepping for the next day, that Friday night after our game. Sometimes we would. And then we'd put Big Board Friday on the big screen or whatever. And that's the first time I was introduced to Coach Kriegel. I think his theme that year was like breaking the chain or something. He had like a big freaking dog chain or whatever. And it was on Big Board Friday. They videoed his pregame thing. And I was like, who the heck is this dude, man? He was like a crazy bald guy, like running around. He had this chain around his neck. And then he just like jumps into a dog pile and is like going crying, like, I got to meet that guy. I like that guy. So I dug around, found out, it was Coach Kriegel at Perrysburg. I'm like, that I want to coach with that guy someday. I honestly told you that. I had to have that in my head. And it just so happened, that I got the luxury. I'd hoped he stayed a little bit longer, but I got a couple years with him. So, and that's something I think about too, is like some of the great coaches I've got to work under. And Coach James has been there for a million years and run the triple option, and he's got a solid program over there. I don't know if he's ever going to leave. They're probably going to epoxy him on the sideline or something when he passes away and just leave him there. And then especially now he's got turf over there now too. That was always his biggest. I hate working on this field. That's going to kill me. Blah blah blah. Now he's got turf. He's probably going to stay in there 20 years.
It's going to extend his life.
Exactly. Then you got Coach Hall, who's been around for a million years, and I coached against Coach Hall, and he's one of those coaches that, like, man, wow, he's a tough bird. And so I've gotten to coach under him, and another one you probably don't, Coach Chopper Smells, who's a big American Legion coach in the Hall of Fame. The dude's coached for a million years. He passed away, but I played under him in high school, and then I coached with him for 10 years too in the summers. So, some of them coaches, that coached against and then got to coach with, that's been a great part of my life. I've learned a lot from all of those guys.
That's my being a new varsity football coach when Coach Kriegel brought me up was eye-opening, because I didn't know what to expect. What I loved, and I've talked about it a lot, Dirk does it too, Coach Connor, just lets us, like, here's, all right, you have 20 minutes, do whatever you want to do, like, do your drills. This is a pass focus or this is run focus, so at least make your drills that. on
Yep.
that. But other than that, just do your thing. And Coach Kriegel told me in the summer, my first summer there, he goes, I was like telling him about these drills, and he goes, "Hey, you can do whatever you want." He goes, "You'll learn pretty quickly if they're good drills or not. The kids will let you know if they like them or not. And sometimes for them, sometimes it doesn't matter if you like it and they don't. Guess what? You're still going to do it because it's important, right?
If you see it going over to the field on Friday night, yeah, you're gonna stick with it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
And there's some that I just did because it was like I did even into this day. Those guys still talk about it. Like it was Nick Kilbride, Aiden Pratt. They talk about I used to do this drill called red light, green light, where it's basically like a conditioning drill, but it taught them like how to break down before they went on their route or whatever. And they hated it, but I loved it. I go, guys, we do it for like 2 minutes and we'll be done. I just
right.
But they still talk about it.
Oh, I know all my guys when I was at Northwood, I was a linebacker coach there, and I took over for the guy that retired who had coached me. Old guy, linebacker coach, great coach. And so I took some of his drills and I morphed some of them into mine. And I still have all my linebackers when they come back and they see me, coach, that typewriter drill. I hated the typewriter drill. I called it typewriter. It's a bag drill, basically the bag run, and they had to shuffle over them and then it'd weave through them. And then you had, it's just basically a footwork drill. And it was a conditioning drill and it was a tough drill. And when they got out of my individual period, then we would go into group, and they was like, because their group coach would be like, "What are you doing to him over there?" I said, "I'm killing him," and that's basically what I would do. But I'm telling you, it went over to the field, so that's all it mattered. And we were known. Northwood was known for great middle linebackers, and so that's what we developed. And so I'm like, it's working. So I did it, and every single one of them dudes, whenever they come back, your type drill, I hated that drill. So yeah, so. Kids from all the way back from, that graduated in 2013, when I see them, and 11, I see them and they're like, "Yeah, coach, I hated your typewriter drill." But thank you.
As long as they don't say, "I hate you." Yeah.
No, yeah, exactly. That's it. And one of my best linebackers, I don't know if he's still there. I know he went back and he's coaching at Northwood. He was coaching linebackers, and he said, "We do your typewriter drill." I said, "There you go. So you're passing it on." So I passed it on. You passed.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I bet someone does it if they get into coaching, and they do right there.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. Yep, he did. Yep. So so I told him, you can hate it, but it worked, and it was good. It was a good conditioner.
Yeah.
And while all the other dudes on defense were huffing and puffing when we were doing conditioning, you were just sailing right through it, weren't you? Like, yeah, I said, exactly. That's why I did it, and it worked on your footwork.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
One thing that blew my mind is when you came on the staff. First of all, you came on the staff. You were supposed to be a junior high coach, and then you ended up just being a varsity coach.
No, I didn't know. So that's kind of a weird thing, because I got the itch again. So I call Chuck and I say, "Chuck, I got the itch again, man." I said, "And I'm in Perrysburg now." So we moved into Perrysburg because great school system.
Yeah.
We got young kids coming. I said, "So this is why we're here." And I said, "If there's any coaching positions in baseball or football that pop up, just let one of the coaches know that I'd be more than volunteer. I'll do whatever. Just I want to get back into it a little bit." And he says, he goes, "Yeah, let me do some checking." And he come back, "Well, we have a 7th grade assistant football coach position open. Do you want to do that?" I go, "Yep, let me do it." And I said, "I love developing. I'll do that." So me and Ben Marshall, did that. I did that for 1 year, and Coach Kriegel calls me up and says, "Are you coaching junior high football?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "What the hell are you doing coaching junior high football?" I said, "I talked to Coach, I call him Coach Jaco, sorry.
Yeah.
Because I could talk to Chuck Jaco, and he said that he goes, "I got a spot up at the varsity. Do you want to come up and coach that?" I'm like, "Yeah." so and I'm like, I'm a defensive guy, and that's what I was, a defensive coordinator at 7th grade for Ben. And so I'm thinking, all right, defense, so then I come up and Coach Densdorf's there, I'm like, he's been there forever, whatever. And Coach Kriegel's like, "I need you to coach quarterbacks." And I'm like, "Perfect. Yep. Got it. No problem. Never coached him before in my life."
Because that's what you're supposed to say.
Yep. Never coached him before in my life. I got it, man. I got it. I had 2 of them. I had 2 quarterbacks in the family. They did real well. I said, "So, Yep, I'm good. I got it." So So you want me to teach the mesh point for triple option? Well, he's like, no, we're not doing any of that shit here.
You know what?
Sorry.
Drew loves that. You and Drew would have gotten along so
Oh,
well if that's
no,
how it
no,
was.
me and Drew, you have no idea. We were drawing stuff, sorry, on the dry erase.
Yeah.
Behind the scenes when nobody else was around, we always talked about triple op. No, yeah. Yeah. So yeah, we always talked to the philosophies of that and the mesh point and the footwork. And I can teach it just because, with Nick and Eric, my older boys, I was constantly, watching them do it. And occasionally I would get to watch them go through their individual periods with Coach James and watch how he did it. And then, we did clinics and stuff with the little kids at Northwood. So, coaching staff would help out with that. And a lot of times, I didn't have anything going on in defense. So I would just go down and help out with the quarterbacks. So, it wasn't like I was totally no clue what it was, but
sure,
it was a totally different thing. So, I had to get into the, picking brains and getting on YouTube and looking at different stuff to learn. But it's just coaching. It's just making a connection with the kids. And having Drew as the freaking quarterback didn't that all I was there was just basically a figurehead.
Yeah.
And he probably taught me more than I taught.
Well, that's how. Yeah. Yeah. That's how it was.
Just the mental approach to the game. I think I helped him there.
Okay.
But the physical part of it and all that, he had that. I mean, you know how he was. Mm-hmm. He had that part down. But maybe like I guess more of the personal side of it, like the not being so tough on yourself when you make a mistake. Mm-hmm. Don't compound your errors. Do something good a little bit. Do something a little bit better if you're struggling at something. There was times where he would struggle on the short passing routes. I said, well, then let's just start looking at the medium routes. Just little stuff like. I think I helped him out there a little bit other than that, but it's just the fundamentals and the knowing the offense. I mean, dude, he was on top of that, so yeah.
That's how I felt so my first year as a head freshman football coach, that was his freshman class. So that he helped me out tremendously. Like he would come, he would have little impromptu meetings with me after practice. We'd talk about stuff, or he would say, hey, I think we should be doing this more. One time he told me, he's like, we need to be conditioning more. I said, okay, what I learned from my dad coached my baseball team for several years, is he would tell us, like, I don't know a lot about baseball. So if you guys have suggestions or want to do things or want to change things, you let me know and we'll talk about it. And that's what I learned from him. And Drew was perfect for that. Like he would suggest things or talk to me, and I was open to that kind of stuff because I wanted it to make the fun for them and be the best team we could be. And I know I don't know everything, so that played a huge part in our success.
That's a huge approach to a successful coach, is saying, I don't know everything, and I'm not going to tell you I know everything. I know a lot about it, but I don't know everything. And if you have a coach that says I know everything there is to know about football, and I'm done, it's like, then that's not the guy. That's not the guy you want to be around. It's like, like with Coach James and Coach Kriegel, those guys were let you coach, and those are the great ones. The ones that don't micromanage and let you do your thing. Guide you, which is great. That's you got their program. You know what their program is. What you have to do to develop your kids into that program, and just let you kind of do your own thing. Those are the ones that are the great successful coaches. And I coached the same way when I was a head baseball coach at Northwood. I had a great staff. Put the staff together, and I said, this is what we're doing. It was a program that was in shambles. It was a lot of garbage. I mean, that's a 5-hour podcast right there. But the athletic director said, I'm going to bring you in. I want you to straighten it out. I want you to build it. I want you to rebuild it. I want you to make it successful. And if you can do that, great. And I said, all right, that's easy to do. So we flipped that thing around really quickly, and it was all on my staff. That they were the ones that were part of it, because I let them go, let them do their thing. We had a philosophy that we were going to toughen up the baseball program and make it difficult to be successful. We worked them hard. It wasn't just show up and play baseball and go home. It was we installed a weight program. We installed a physical program in the off season. We had a powerlifting baseball team. A baseball team had a powerlifting team that we did powerlifting meets with, and So yeah,
Wow.
so it was the whole we just completely revamped that philosophy, and obviously that it worked. We had a very successful baseball program over there.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was well.
It's cool to see, like, now that I've been a varsity coach for a few years now, it's like to see other coaches or younger coaches. And because I was a seventh grade football coach for 2 years or 3 years, I can't remember now. And then I was a freshman coach for 3 years. And
Mhm.
to understand like what a coach is looking at or seeing, because I remember being a seventh grade coach, and I was looking through old emails for what I think I was running out of space. So I was looking through old emails, and I texted Coach Kriegel, like, man, coach, I was annoying. I was emailing you all the time as a seventh grade coach, like, hey, what do you need me to do on Friday nights with this and that? He goes, no, you knew what you wanted. You were persistent. He goes, it wasn't annoying. And, eventually I remember seeing Drew was in junior high at the time. I think he was in eighth grade. And I saw Coach Sims there, and I was like, hey, Coach Kriegel asked if I wanted to be, the head freshman football coach. And he's like, yeah, he talked to me about you. He just asked, like, do you think Lorenzo would be good at it? And they, like, yeah, I think he'd be good. And so I was just, there for 3 years. And just to see, like, just to understand, like, Coach Kriegel knows what's going on in these lower levels. He doesn't need to be super involved to not understand what's happening. And, to see that and to be able to say, hey, Lorenzo, I need you to coach wide receivers. And even though that was the same thing as far as quarterbacks, like, my friends made fun of me, like, you're coaching wide receivers. Like, hey, I don't have to do the job. I just got to coach them.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yep.
But it was the same thing, like going on YouTube, finding those finding videos, finding drills, talking to people. I spent a whole day when we went to UT. I spent a whole day with our wide receivers coach at UT, and learning stuff there. So it was fun. It was a new thing, and never had to deal with it.
See, you remind me of me, Lorenzo. It was the same exact thing that when I was a 135-pound senior. Maybe it's 165. I played at 135 my entire one. I gained like 30 pounds my senior year. I was a free safety wide receiver in high school,
Yeah.
and I coached linebackers when I got up there. I said, "Everybody, you're coaching linebackers?" Like, yeah, that's it. But I got 1 year. The coach that was before me that retired, he partially retired. He would come back and kind of mentor me, I guess is what you say. So I learned from him, and then they had something called I don't know if you ever got to the Glacier clinics that they used to have downtown Toledo. They used to have
Mm-mm.
football clinics every year. They would have this big clinic where all these coaches would come in, college coaches, NFL coaches would come in, and the team would have to pay a certain fee, and then Coach James would send us all down to this thing. It was like a 3-day thing. It was Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and so we'd go like Friday evening, and it was just like different. They had different rooms downtown in the whatever that hall is down there, and then each coach would have his own room, and then you just get pick and choose who you wanted to go watch and who you wanted to go. They just break film down. Then they do skull sessions afterwards. You just sit there and just bullshit, BS with them, and so I did that every year. I learned more from that, and
Yeah.
in fact, I was in junior high. I was the wide receivers DB's coach with Coach Jaco, and I can remember talking to a young coach that was at Notre Dame at the time. It was Urban Meyer.
Oh yeah.
I actually had lunch with him, and just talking about wide. He was the wide receivers coach at Notre Dame,
Okay.
and so I learned from him, and I learned from I've met so many great coaches that were young at the time now, but then just immersed myself in that. That's how I kind of learned my philosophy, learned how to coach. I picked up drills there, and just it morphed into that, and just working under successful coaches was huge too as well. So that made
Yeah.
it easy. Yeah.
Well, Dave, I won't keep it much longer. I appreciate you
That's
coming
all
on
right.
here. This was really fun. It was
Yeah.
cool. It's always fun to talk, especially just talk to someone I know, but talk to coaching. I know while you were out there, I did enjoy talking to you. Just when we were in between drills, or when Coach Connor came, he had
Yeah.
the split up session. So it was fun just to just talk with you. I learned a lot from you, and I
I appreciate
appreciated you being out there. So when you were done, it's one of those things, like when Sam left to take over Eastwood, like, it's like, man, that's another dude I would talk to a lot, and
it.
they get replaced by people that eventually
Oh yeah.
I'll have that same relationship with, but
Yep.
it's tough losing guys like that. So I
Yeah.
appreciate you being out there.
Yeah, I appreciate it too. Yeah, like I say, you're gonna come across a million coaches that you're gonna be in and out with, and you're going to learn from, they're going to learn from you. And that's the great thing about the coaching community, I guess. What it is yeah. So I really enjoyed working with you guys too. I miss it. I do miss it. I will tell you that. And I'm getting the itch again a little bit, but I'm changing careers now. So I won't be allowed to coach, but so it's one of those things where I'm going to give this career thing a couple years and see if I'm doing well. I'm enjoying it.
Good.
So we'll see how that goes. But we got that little itch. You know what I mean? Coach Connor's been on me a little bit. And I politely declined and told him, it's not at this time. And Coach Cotterman is kind of
sure.
So it's kind of, it's like, but I'm going to give it a couple of years to try this new career and see how that goes. If it goes well, I'll probably stay out. But if it doesn't, I'll find something I can get back in again.
Yeah.
But once you're a coach, you're always a coach.
Oh yeah. Well, good luck. Good luck with that, Dave. Again, I appreciate you coming on the podcast today.
I appreciate you having me.
Thanks again to my guest, Dave Russell, for coming on the podcast today. It was great hearing all about his early coaching his sons. That's a huge thing for me. So I'm waiting for my son to get to the varsity because I'm excited to be on a team coaching while he is there. So it's interesting. I like hearing his take on it about before his sons got to varsity and then after they left, how he felt and everywhere in between. And good luck to him in his new career. I'm excited for him, and maybe he makes it back out there coaching. Maybe he doesn't, but he's a great dude, great guy, and I appreciate him coming on here and talking to me about football and coaching and family stuff. So again, rate, review, subscribe wherever you're listening to this podcast. Leave comments, reach out to me for any guests that you think would be good to be on the podcast. I'm always looking for people. So please interact. That's what we're looking for here. Interact with the podcast. Again, three different dads. It's on a little of a hiatus while Jim deals with his family, and we'll be back whenever we can get back. So I appreciate you all hanging out. Appreciate you all listening. As always, thanks to Big Daddy Graphics, Real JP Multimedia, Cuttlefish Graphics, and Perrysburg Junior High STEM Lab for always helping out the podcast. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.